Katie. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, B. Thanks for inviting me.
No worries. It's been ages since I last saw you. Was it in Malaysia? Or did we?
Yes, I
I think
think,
so. Yeah, you came to stay with me in
yeah,
Malaysia.
yeah,
And you're now in
Egypt
Egypt, right?
in
Are you
Sinai.
are you
Mm.
living there at the moment?
Yeah, we've been here for almost 2.5 years now.
Oh, right. So you were in Bulgaria and then you moved to. So what happened with why did you decide to move from Bulgaria to Egypt?
It was kind of taken out of my hands with all the lockdown
Oh,
stuff.
okay. All right, fair enough.
So yeah, yeah. I mean, it's one of those things that at the time you feel like you've lost everything in your life, and well, like, what am I doing? Like, I
Yeah.
felt like I was back in my teenage bedroom at my parents' because I'd gone back to teach in the spring like I usually do, and then obviously everything shut down and all my work was cancelled, and I was back in my teenage bedroom where I had all these dreams of travel and dance,
Oh,
and I was like, oh god, I'm back in the same place. Like, was anything worth it? It was really like that.
I know
So
what you mean. Yeah. Um,
yeah, so
so you've been dancing since you were 3 as well, same as me. But like, I want to kind of go through your journey in dance. So because you've come on such a long journey through so many different styles, and like it's like just vast. So when you started, what dance style did you start in originally?
it was ballet and tap and
Yeah.
modern jazz, like typical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then how did you end up going from that into belly dance?
I always had this, this feeling I want to be a dancer, but I didn't know what kind of dance. I knew what I didn't want to do. Definitely, I didn't want to be a ballerina
I did.
um, or no, I kind of came to that conclusion really early on. One reason because I was always in trouble for talking in the class, and it it all yeah, just I enjoyed it, but at the same time, I knew it wasn't my thing, but I didn't really know what was. So, and this is by the time I finished ballet and everything, I was about 13,
Yeah.
and and I'd also been doing gymnastics from when I was 4 or something, and also competitive swimming as well from when I
Mm.
was 7. And literally within a couple of weeks, I said I'm quitting all of it, and I had this big, that is it. So my parents were freaking out and saying, well, you have to do something, because I was so physical and I had so much energy all the time. And it was a question of, okay, what are you going to do to like use this physicalness? And it took until I was 15, and 14 I saw a video of you two with the belly dancer in Mysterious Ways when they were
Oh,
on tour, and I saw that after being out at a party. And so it was about 5 in the morning or something. My friend said, watch this video. And I was like, that is what I want to do. That's like, I want to be able to dance like this. And yeah, and then it took about a year to find a teacher. I had my careers interview, like GCSEs first year, and careers advisor said, okay, what are you going to do, A levels and all of this? And I said, I want to be a belly dancer. And she she surprisingly was really, really supportive, and she went
wow.
away and she found all the courses in Leicester that were happening at that time, and she posted it to me, to the school.
Best
Yeah,
careers
she was like,
best careers officer ever.
I don't know her name. I've still got that piece of paper that she sent to me when I was 15.
Wow.
And yeah, and unfortunately, the classes that were happening at that time were all on the other side of the town, and I couldn't get there. They were in the evenings, and so I searched for a year, and then one day, my mum just found this article about Sylvia, who became my first
Yeah.
teacher, and it was in a local newspaper about a retired university lecturer who was teaching belly dance. So I called her, and then I began the classes with her. So next year it will be 30 years since I
Wow.
started.
Wow, that's
I know.
amazing. So how long did you dance with Sylvia and then where did you go from there?
It was about 3 years, 2 to 3 years, where Sylvia was my regular teacher, but it was slightly different because I had one-to-one classes with her, and she always said to me she didn't know why she offered to do that because she never did it with anybody else. But it also meant that they were quite irregular. I had to fit in with when she was free, so I might have one class every 2 months or every
Yeah.
6 weeks, and then I had to go away and practice. So then ballet came in handy because I had that discipline
Absolutely.
and like do it and practice every day. And of course I was going to parties and practicing my moves on the dance floor. And yeah, so I was with her, but I was also going to regular workshops because at that time, this was 95, 96, 97. Leicester was like the hub for belly dancing. And so there were loads and loads of really brilliant teachers who almost every month there was a different teacher. So I went to as many of those workshops as I could as well. And then we got to a point where Sylvia said to me that she felt I'd outgrown her.
Oh,
And
it happens.
which which was, for a teacher to say that to you and to have that kind of love really for you, it was really special that she recognized it and she didn't try to clamp me down, and instead she asked me to be her assistant in her classes. And so then she would do the talking, because by this point I guess she was in her late 60s. Right. She would do the talking and I had to represent the movement. So this meant that I had to do it really perfectly because she had this eagle eye, and obviously the rest of the class were following me. So this also gave me really great training to then go on and teach for myself. And so she suggested a teacher who was also coming to Loughborough every month with her husband, and he is Angie Jackson Main. She was from Cambridge, or is from Cambridge, and her husband Pete. And Pete had trained with Hossam Ramsey, so this was my first link to Hossam.
Yeah.
So Pete would play Darabuka live in the workshops, and again this was once a month, so I wasn't having this weekly guidance. So I'd go for that lesson on a Saturday and gather everything that I could, and then I'd go away and practice. And then after a while I pleaded with them if they could give me a private lesson on top of the workshop. So and then also I was still going to these other workshops, and sometimes to London. I went to a lot of Layla Haddad's workshops. I really learned so much from her, and I love her dancing and her as a person. She's really brilliant.
So you kind of fell into teaching initially then, by the sounds of it. You weren't so much a teacher, but you were demonstrating. So is that kind of what led you into teaching, or was it something else? Or how did you realize that you wanted to be a teacher?
Yeah, I guess when you put it like that, it was a wiggly, because my aim was I just want to dance. I didn't think about in what capacity or anything. And then through Sylvia, I met another Kate, and we began performing together. So this was with a band, and they were based in Leicester, and it was a kind of Middle Eastern fusion band, and we were dancing at festivals.
Nice.
And I was really the baby, because at this point I was 18 and they were all sort of mid-30s, and I really felt like I'm this little baby with them. And again I learned so much, and from Kate, because we would rehearse together, and it was through her that I discovered Fifi Abdu and Naima Keef and all of the Samia Gamal and all of them, because she had Hossam's videos of all the old dancers.
Nice.
And so it kind of gradually happened that when we were at festivals, people would ask us if we could give workshops, and Kate would be, I guess, like the lead teacher, and I would be assisting her, because I didn't feel very confident to lead it myself. And so I guess I did that up until I was 19, 20. So I had about sort of 3 years of being an assistant. And at the same time, I was training in very different styles. So Angie trained with Soraya Hilal, and then Sylvia was, well, more kind of free, like her own free expression. And but she had trained in the JWAD training. So I kind of had very opposite polarities in the way that I was taught. And I also started to study with Soraya Hilal and with her teachers as well. So this was very folkloric based, and also contemporary mixed in as well.
Yeah. So did you find that that sort of you were not sure which direction you wanted to go in, or did you find that you just wanted to mix all of those styles together? And what did you have like a favorite style, or did you just become your sort of own style?
All the kind of sequins and the bling were very alien to me.
Oh, right.
Like,
okay.
really, it was I couldn't even put makeup on. I mean, when I first started to really perform a lot, when I lived in Worthing and I was performing around Brighton and everything, one of my best friends, and Nina, that we used to perform together, she used to have to do my makeup, do my hair. I couldn't put eyeliner on. This is when I was 20, because even as a teenager, when I went out, I never wore makeup. I was very, kind of tomboyish.
Yeah.
So I had a big learning as well in that, because it was only one time I got a show at the last minute and Nina was on holiday, and there was no one to help me. So I had to do all the makeup. I was like, oh shit, I don't know what to do. And so that as well, I really had to get into this more feminine side. And I've forgotten what your question was now, because now I'm having the memory about the makeup saga.
Which kind of style? About the styles, which direction were you trying to head in, or did you kind of know where you wanted to go, or did you have your own style that came from everything you were learning, or did you have a direction that you wanted to go in more because you were learning lots of different styles?
Yeah, I maybe didn't realize it immediately, but I was creating my own style because I was also going to samba classes, samba dance and West African dance. So I was kind of fusing things together without knowing. And I suppose I was more going in the kind of ballady folkloric, like the Soraya style. But then she changed her techniques a lot, and she created this kind of Soraya style, you could call it, and a much more contemporary. And I didn't gel with it so much. So from there, I just started to look at different, how can I express this in my own way. And also because I wanted to be very clear that if I'm dancing samba, it's samba. If I'm dancing, I was also studying Bollywood dance. So if I'm doing Bollywood, it's Bollywood. If I'm doing belly dance, it's belly dance. And if it's this style, I didn't want everything to be like a spaghetti mix that I couldn't control. I couldn't control my body. I wanted to be really clear that this is this and this is this. And then if I mix it, it's a choice rather than it being out of my hands.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so did you start teaching in Leicester?
It was when I moved down to Sussex, and I was living in Worthing, and I'd had my son, and I had a cesarean when he was born. So I had about 9 months where I didn't dance too much because I was recovering from that and had a new baby, and I moved to a different place. I didn't know anybody there. And then I found a weekly belly dance class very close to where I lived. So I started going to it just for myself, and just to gradually ease back in. And this was where I met Nina, who I just mentioned, and many other friends as well. And from there, people started asking me, can I teach and can I do performances? There was a Turkish restaurant, and then in Brighton there were lots of like Lebanese restaurant and Palestinian. So I started getting invited to dance. And I thought, okay, let's just go for it and see what happens. So I found a room, and I thought, I don't have no idea how many people are going to come. This was in the era of having flyers and,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
putting them
yeah.
around the
I did that.
town
Yeah. Yeah,
and
exactly.
handing them out. Yeah. And at that point, I was life modeling this. I was setting up my holistic business. So I was doing massage and I was studying Reiki. So I was soon to start teaching Reiki, and I was life modeling as the sort of bread and butter money. So
Yeah.
I did that for almost 2 years. I was still breastfeeding. So through the day, it was like the milk was getting, my boobs would get bigger and bigger, and people were like rubbing out the pictures. And I'd be thinking, please don't leak, please, please.
Oh my gosh.
I was just going to say, with then setting up the belly dance class, everything fed into each other. So the clients I had, say for massage, I was able to tell, oh, by the way, I've got a belly dance class. Or the people coming for live drawing, they might come for massage. Or like
Yeah.
everything started to, and then because I was performing, I was able to also speak to people in the restaurants as well. So for that first class, I had 10 women show up, uh, which was really amazing. And then started 6 years that I was teaching in Worthing.
Yeah. So yeah, what I was going to say, because I was going to ask about how your journey has taken you kind of down a spiritual route, and so I was wondering how that happened. But now I already know the answer, because you obviously started with the Reiki. But did you ever think that did you have an interest in the spiritual side of dance, or did that just come naturally to you as part of it? Was it always there, or was it something that you discovered along the way?
It was a bit of both. I went to, again in Leicester when I was a kid. When I was 7, we went to the Newark Museum, and they've got a big Egyptian section there.
Okay.
So they've got mummies and hieroglyphs and things. And I saw the hieroglyphs. There were these small carvings of them, and I saw the positions that they were in, all this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I had this feeling, it was so strong, I can still remember it, this feeling in my body that they meant something, that this meant something, this meant something. Like it, I knew that there was a meaning. And I asked my school teacher, and she just kind of brushed me off and said, just go and look at the mummies. And this really stayed with me.
Good
And
teacher.
yeah, well, I guess they didn't know what I was talking about.
No,
So, because yeah,
don't know.
so it stayed with me. And over the years, at the beginning, I asked belly dance teachers as well, because we're doing a lot of the same positions. Nobody could tell me anything. And because from when I was 7, and I think seeing that exhibition really ignited this interest in spirituality and reincarnation, and like the rebirth idea and everything. And so I was kind of already on that journey, but at the beginning I didn't see how it could meld together. It was very separate. It was like belly dance and technique and all of that, and dress up. And then there was the spiritual side, which I guess I didn't talk about that much to people, and unless they were coming for treatments with me, or when I was teaching Reiki. And and then it actually turned out that Sylvia, I'd seen her perform when I was about 9,
Yeah.
and I don't actually remember it, but there's
Oh,
photos which were in the newspaper at the time, which we found these when I was in my 20s. And you can see Sylvia, and it was her very first performance, and all of the ladies that were in the class. So it was with her teacher. And then there's me in the background in the crowd in my
oh,
90s Bermuda shorts with a fringe.
Bermuda
And I'm
shorts.
like this,
Yeah, I remember
yeah,
those.
luminous yellow.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. And so I think something happened to me then as well. When I saw her, it planted a seed
Yeah,
for me, even though I didn't consciously remember.
that's
So
amazing. That's amazing how it just like
yeah,
went back later on. You've found her again later on. Yeah.
yeah, it felt like it was very much meant to be in that
Yeah.
way. And then she was there through all of my life up until she passed away
Oh.
2 or 3 years ago. Yeah, she's so lovely and so crazy, and really in a funny way.
Yeah.
um, yeah, and I think although she wasn't sort of what you would call as mainstream or spiritual, although spiritual, a lot of people wouldn't think of it as mainstream, but she opened my mind in different ways, in the way that she looked at the world, and also her life experiences. And I saw how synchronicities could occur, even though I didn't know that word at that time. And it was really inspiring for me to know that I could follow my heart, and that she had followed her heart, and that it would be okay even if I didn't know where it was going. So this started when I was 15, and I'd also been going to clairvoyant circles and like meditation groups as I was growing up as well. And then, yeah, I guess with Reiki, that blasted me open in a different way. And then moving to India when I was 26, this also opened lots of possibilities.
Okay, so how did you manage to get, how did that happen? Because that's like a big step from, I mean, although I know there's an obvious connection between Leicester and India because there's so many Indian teachers in Leicester. Like that's where I used to
Yeah,
go. I used to go there to do tabla and kathak. So there's some amazing like teachers there. But so
yeah.
there's that connection. What was it that led you there?
I I had a really good friend from school whose family are from India. So we were talking when we were 12, when she'd been to India for the first time, saying, one day when we're big, we'll go to India together.
Oh.
And she got her nose pierced when she was there. And yeah, she was telling me about her family that she'd met. So I had an Indian connection through her and her family, going to her house after school. And then the way it happened for me to actually go and live there was, I was in Brighton one day. I went into the health food shop and I saw this tiny, tiny little advert on the notice board, and it said looking for teachers and therapists for a retreat centre in Goa. And it was
Oh,
literally that. So I emailed, and they replied and said you can come for 3 to 6 months over the winter. And I thought, well, I can do say 3.5 months. And my children, I'd had my daughter as well, or Ty, that
yeah,
by that point, so they were 3 and 6 at the
yeah,
time. And I thought, yeah, let's do it, and just go and see. And it was to teach Reiki, to teach belly dance classes, and do massage.
nice.
So yeah, so off we went, and and then it turned into 9 years.
Wow,
So
love that. That's brilliant. Yeah, because I remember you would come back over to England to teach and perform, but you basically lived over there. How did you end up studying? You studied like stuff from some of the workshops I did with you were
Gurdjieff or
yeah,
whirling or Nepalese.
yeah, it was the Nepalese and yeah, that sort of thing. So how did you come by that? I mean, obviously there's a link, but did you actually go there or did you find teachers in India?
I've been really lucky in that the dance styles that I've studied and teach, I've learned with teachers in those countries.
Right.
So I feel really,
Nice.
really privileged that I've done that.
Definitely.
And yeah, and so India, I mean, it's like a film story. The way I started to perform was had my classes, and again, it was give flyers out on the beach. And I'd met some local drummers who made drums and sold them. So we said, why don't we team up at sunset and we do a little show on the beach, just literally no makeup, in my shorts, in my vest, and with a hip scarf. And so we just did this, just playing around. And then when we finished, a guy came over and he said, oh, you're a belly dancer? And I said, yes. And he said, well, I've got a wedding on Saturday on my
uh,
boat. Would you like to come and perform? So I said, okay. And so that was my first experience of big fat Indian wedding, which was
Nice.
completely insane.
Yeah.
And from that, yeah,
Yeah, I've done those.
yeah. And from that, I met another event manager from Bombay, and he invited me to go there the next week. So then I did another show, a bigger show, and from there it snowballed.
Yeah.
And soon I was traveling all around India. So
Amazing.
then, yeah, it was really amazing. And I had like the most opposite extremes of experiences, from so magical and unbelievable to so terrible. So the reason I was telling you about how I came to perform in India is because of that's partly why I was able to study the Nepalese dance, because we had
Yes.
to go to Kathmandu for the visas. That was the easiest place because it's close to India. So we went on a 5-day overland adventure, and Ty fell on the train track. So she was, I guess, 4 at this point. It was monsoon, and she slipped as she was getting on the train and slid between the track and between the train and the side. And thankfully, somebody pulled her out by the ankle.
Whoa.
So yeah, it was
Whoa.
really scary.
Scary.
Yeah. And yeah, and then we went up to Delhi, and then again it was by train, by bus, by bike, rickshaw, that we
Chicken,
went over the
elephant.
border. Yeah, and then another bus into Kathmandu itself. And we stayed at a Buddhist guest house, and they had yoga classes there. And then I saw again another little poster, and it said this Vajra Yogini classes. And I thought, what's this? I never heard of it, this Buddhist dance. And they arranged for me to meet the teacher, and she was the same age as me, and she'd been studying this Nepalese dance for the same amount of time as I'd been studying belly dance. So we had a lot of kind of connection, and we couldn't communicate very much in English. And she started teaching me. And this dance is so rare, and it's not from the whole of Nepal. It's only from Kathmandu, and it's something that was taught by the Buddhist priests.
Wow.
So her teacher, if I remember right, her teacher's dad was a priest.
Wow.
And so it was something quite closed, and not many foreigners have learned it. I didn't learn all the dances, but I did everything that I could. But it was very much in the way that you had to learn it without the music and learn all the moves. And these are the shortest dance was 8 minutes.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
yeah, you kind of you have to memorize it in that way, and the timing, so that then you can use the music. But of course I didn't understand the Sanskrit, but the music were of what was being sung. For her, she could understand it, and so the story was telling her, Green Tara's holding her crown, or she's taking her sword. But I didn't have any of that, and there wasn't really even a rhythm, so I had to learn it through the different sounds and the gaps between the sounds, and it was really, really difficult.
Wow.
And she wouldn't give me the music to practice with. She gave yeah, she gave me it on the morning that I was leaving, and this was only after I'd shown her the dances and had got them perfect, and then gave me a CD of the music. So yeah, this was an amazing challenge. And during that time I had this massive Kundalini kind of spontaneous explosion, and I was knocked unconscious. And at that moment I didn't realize what had happened, and I also didn't know that these dances are very much about activating Kundalini. So it wasn't for several months that I realized what had happened. However, because at this point I was fully in the showbiz world, in like dancing for celebrities in Bollywood and film premieres and everything, after being unconscious, and when I came round, I heard a voice that said to me, you have to create this belly dance therapy, or this therapy with belly dance, and if you don't do it, you're going to die. And that was it.
Yeah, that's gonna be
that was the extent.
That's gonna spur you on then. No wonder you've been at it.
Yeah. So that was say 2007.
Right, that makes
And
sense, because I remember like you starting to teach those sort of workshops around that time. Yeah, I remember you actually you came and performed at my show at Shangri-La, I remember. That's when we kind of connected, I think. Like, I was aware of you
and that was
before
such
then.
a lovely show.
Yeah. I miss
It
do miss doing that. It was always a year of pulling my hair out, but it was always worth it. Yeah. Yeah. So tell us about the Awakened belly dance. So that's what from that moment on, that was your kind of mission. Did you know where it was going to go, or did you know exactly where it was going to go, or what you were going to be teaching? No.
No, I had no idea, and it took me 8 years.
Yeah.
It was almost like all of that spirituality and energy work that I'd done sort of in my teenage and early 20s came knocking, like, you're not going to run away from this. You have to embrace it. Because when I got really busy with performing in India, I felt like I had to make a choice. Am I going to do this performance stuff, or am I going to go on the holistics? Because I felt like I couldn't hold both. It felt so opposite. And I thought, okay, I'm in my 20s. I can come back to Reiki, or I can come back to that when I'm 90. It doesn't matter. But am I going to get this chance again to perform and at this age? So of course I went with performing, and I suppose because of that, I was maybe repressing a part of me that wanted to be expressed, and that I didn't have time or the energy for. And so when I got that message, I thought, I just don't know what to do. I'm so in this world that is very shadowy as well, and that I don't want to be in those shadows, but
absolutely,
I'm having to almost have one foot in and one foot out to continue my career, but not get involved in basically sleeping with people to extend my career.
Exactly.
And this is and this is why I'm not in any Bollywood films or anything.
How did you deal with how did you deal with that side of things when you were there? Because I'm well aware that it's like that. So, like, did you ever find yourself in any really bad situations?
Yeah, I'm actually really thankful that although I had some hairy moments, nothing happened to me in the way of somebody touching me, and I was very, very clear that I'm coming to dance, you're going to pay me, and I'm going home to my kids. And this was, I was repeating this a million times. And I also learned very quickly about which managers to work with or not work with.
Right.
And I was in a bit of a different situation because I was the only foreigner that had my own company in the entertainment world, and I was my own manager, so I wasn't under contract to anybody. And I was really clear about this at the beginning, that I wanted to have freedom to choose the shows that I worked for,
that's
the
good.
people I worked for. And I'm so happy that I did that, even though it was much, much harder, because then I had to negotiate everything. I had to always be on it, that there was security for me, that there was transport.
Because the other thing is, like, is once you start working with one bad person, they'll pass you on to another bad person, and it goes that way.
And I think it's just keeping your discernment and keeping your wits about you, because there were times at shows where I felt, like, I know the score, I know what's happening, and then people would storm the stage. Imagine 500 men like running at the stage and
Yeah.
climbing onto it to try and get to you, and the security would be punching them and throwing them off, and I'd have to run and lock myself in the room and then just wait until everything had calmed down, so that, and I'd think I didn't see that coming, you know.
Wow.
There were so many situations like that where I'd have to hide under a blanket and escape out of the place, and or they would be climbing up the balconies because maybe I was on the third floor or something, and climbing or bribing the security, that because they'd even have to come to the bathroom with me and wait outside the door.
Wow.
And people would try to bribe them, say, please, just, you know, just give us 5 minutes with her. And
wow.
I mean, you name it, they tried it. And
that's amazing. Wow.
So it was quite yeah, it's very adrenaline based, and because you don't get to sleep much, you travel, India's so massive, you're traveling, you have to be aware when you're on the road as well, and then at the show, but then the shows, they were, you know, so perfect and so lovely, and they couldn't do enough to make sure that you were safe, and so
absolutely,
it really varied.
Predominantly my biggest clients have been from the Indian community, so and they've always been like, they know how to party, basically.
That's for sure. Yeah.
And they love a dance. They love to dance, they know how to party, and they're very, very competitive.
Sometimes say, especially at weddings, and people would know the signature moves to the most popular song at that time, and there'd be everybody of every age would come on the dance floor, whether it was like this or whatever it might be, and I would be watching them and like, okay, what moves can I learn here, because there's so many good dancers, because it's just, Bollywood is in the blood. So I learned a lot from watching from backstage as well, when families would dance, and it was really fun.
Nice. So so from India, where did you go next? Did you go back to England, or did you, because I know that you came when I was in Malaysia, we kind of crossed paths there. So from India, how did you end up going over to Southeast Asia?
This was, we were in Goa for 6 years, and then Delhi for 3 years. And
you wasn't your school called Delhi Belly or something like that?
I forgot about that. such a genius with names.
Brilliant.
I totally forgot that. It was that, for a while. And I had another dance asylum as well. So I was dancing in Delhi, this opened, and North India, this opened a whole different side of things, and I was dancing with a group for Bollywood dancers, and I was this sort of token white girl at the front, and then it was with men and women, most of them college students. So at this point I was, I guess, 32, so I was already like a grandma, because they're 18 to 21, and most people in India retire from dancing when they're about 27, 28 and get married. So I was considered super old by these kids, and it's very funny, and they were always asking me for relationship advice and different things about life. And so I'd never been to Bali, and I'd been trying to work on this dance therapy with belly dance, and I'd get little insights, like I'd made connections between some things in Tai Chi and Qigong where movements are similar to belly dance, and I was sort of practicing Reiki a lot on myself, and I was just experimenting, really. How do I feel when I do this movement? What do I feel when I do this hand position? And in Goa as well, not long after the Kundalini stuff in Nepal, I'd found a teacher who taught Gurdjieff movements and Osho dynamic meditation and Sufi whirling, and I'd always wanted to learn whirling.
I love whirling.
So I went, So her name was Akash, and she also passed away about 4 years ago.
Oh,
And I went to her to try and get a balance for myself personally from the showbiz stuff. And I knew that to stay sane, I needed something just for me. And again, I didn't have any intention to teach any of that. It was for my own sanity, really, and to kind of connect with myself. And because I was struggling with what had happened from the Kundalini, like it really fried my nervous system.
wow.
And I was having lots of visions and dreams and sort of past life recall, and I was getting flooded with
Wow.
information, and I didn't know what to do with it. And I started to remember that that was happening when I was a child, and again I'd kind of just blocked it out. So it was like everything, I was being bombarded with everything, and I didn't have the tools to do anything with it. So I started going to her classes, and she had also studied belly dance. And of course, I said to her, because one of the Gurdjieff dances has these hieroglyph
Oh,
positions. So I was like, finally, I'm going to
wow.
find out what it means. And I asked her, and she just gave me this smile, and she said, yes, they mean something, and one day you're going to find out for yourself. And I was like, no, you can't do this to me. so so I was furious about that, because I felt like I've waited so long, and I've been doing all this work on myself. And this was about 2 years in, because I'd seen, it's called Assyrian Women Mourners, which might have been a workshop that you did with me. I'd
Yes.
seen that
Yeah.
video. Yeah. And I'd seen it somewhere, and thought, I need to learn this dance, and I want to teach this dance. So this was my main call for the Gurdjieff stuff, as well as knowing that it was about breaking patterns in the body. And again, going back to what I said about, I didn't want to get stuck, whether as a clone of a teacher, of one of my teachers, or a clone of
Exactly. Yeah.
myself. And I was studying Bharatanatyam as well by this point, and had been to Nepal quite a few times, also continuing to study the Vajra Yogini stuff. And what I missed out of my early journey is that when I moved to Worthing, I was then studying with Hossam and Serena Ramsey. So I went from, I mean, it's crazy. Everything that I've done, it always links back to Hossam. And
Ah.
over the years, I was like, this goes back to Hossam, this goes back. So I took private lessons with them for Darabuka, for dance. And because I'd done so much folkloric and ballady style in the years before, that I was really nervous about classical, sort of oriental style, the music and everything. So this is back to when I was 20 again, and I really wanted to get to grips with the oriental side. And actually, saying about the kind of spiritual sort of stuff as well, a lot also came from Hossam, because of the way that his interpretation of the music, of how to dance to it, of his perspective on life. Because I would be supposed to be having a Darabuka class, and we would sit and eat hummus and pita bread, and talk about talk about whatever. And he he had a really positive influence on me, and also in the way that I danced, because I, as you said about how did I decide which direction to go, and also I was very nervous about it. It was like stepping out into the world, and this is the way that I'm going to do belly dance. And he would always say to me, or he would message me, and he'd just say, fuck them all, like, do what you want to do. Like, Hossam has your back, and you can do anything. And
Fantastic.
this was like, yeah, I can do anything, I can do it. And knowing that I could speak to him at any time, and he would just kind of slap me out of whatever
Amazing.
it's
So
in.
cool.
And yeah, so yeah, sorry, sidetrack a little bit.
That's all
He
right.
yeah, he really kind of, maybe he didn't realize it, but from the conversations we had, and I was always questioning him about things. And it kind of brought a different quality to my dance.
Mm.
Okay, so back to back to Bali. So living in Delhi, I was getting this little whisper, go to Bali, go to Bali. And by this point, I'd started to learn to trust my intuition, to trust signs, symbols, and things. So I said to my husband, I think we have to move to Bali. And he's, what? What are you talking about? And you've got this career in India and doing really great, and coming back to England and Europe and teaching usually twice a year. And so I suppose you could say I was at the height of it, but at the same time I was at a ceiling, because unless I started sleeping with people, like there wasn't any more progression of, or not in the way that I would want it to be. I could have happily also carried on doing what I was doing, but that challenge, I suppose, that I wanted.
Yeah.
So, and also the feeling about the therapy side, it was becoming so strong, and I didn't have the time to put into it. So I thought, okay, what I need to do is walk away from everything, give up my dream job, move to a country I've never been to before, and just see what happens. So that's what we did, and went to Bali on a on a dream, and I sort of, I guess, went into a bit of a cave for about 2 years. I didn't perform much in that time. I did bits and pieces, like when I came over to yours and we went to Singapore, and
Yeah.
I kind of chose specific things instead of feeling like I had to perform.
Yeah.
And I focused on teaching, and then it was at that point when we first went to inner dance together.
Yeah.
So then this,
when you were a giant
also
snake.
yes, a big cobra. Yeah, and I just really focused on being with myself, realizing that I was quite traumatized from the experiences in India. But
Yeah.
there was a kind of PTSD, I guess, in a way, from the intensity of the performing, from the exhaustion, not really sleeping properly for 9 years, and
Wow.
being always on the road. There was a lot that I didn't realize until I stepped out of it, and how much I needed to then heal on myself as well. And then also thinking, okay, I'm going to do this thing with belly dance, and I was starting to experiment on other people as well as myself, and calling it tantric belly dance and conscious belly dance, and I don't know, energetic belly dance. So I was sort of gathering information, but at the same time, when I looked at my social media, it was full of agents, like from India. There weren't hardly any women at all, apart from, say, friends and family, and it was full of men and full of performance bling.
People, yeah.
Because I'd been told, don't post photos without makeup, or don't post photos with your children. People will think that you're old. Don't do this, don't do this. So everything, although I didn't necessarily agree with it, but it was true.
You have to present yourself in a certain way, in like a social influencer kind of way almost, but we wouldn't have called it that at the time probably, but it's like you're basically presenting yourself like you would just a celebrity or something, very much like the glossy side, and
facade.
and that's it.
And after that, the first time I posted a picture then without makeup or just normal, I was completely traumatized and looking at it for ages, like, can I post this? Can I? It was such a massive thing, and I was thinking, this is ridiculous, because from day to day I don't wear makeup, apart from when I'm doing something like this. But it was only for shows, and daytime, even now, I don't wear it. So I realized how can, even though I didn't think I was in a control system, there was still an element that was so that I could get work.
Yeah.
And so I just went completely natural with everything, and I started deleting people. And this took about 2 years to totally transform, like it was mostly Facebook at that point. And I just had to keep deleting, and then I would find different people to connect with, and sort of change it to more of the frequency that I wanted. And then over this time, I was then holding more workshops in Bali, and I was teaching inner dance as well, and had another Kundalini thing, and at that time, so this was now the 8 years point after the first one. So when I was in this sort of second out of my body and had to go to hospital, and I had a really bad urinary infection. I couldn't walk. Was for
Wow.
5 days I was just screaming.
Wow.
Ty and Majdi was saying, "You've got to go to hospital," and I was saying, "No, don't you dare take me. I know I can't walk. I can't do anything, but do not take me to the hospital."
Where were you? Were
And
you in Bali then? Was this in
yeah,
Bali? Yeah.
yeah, and I had this massive, I guess some people would call it like a download, or like a information influx, where I was out in the ether somewhere, and I got the name Awakened BellyDance. I got the logo.
Perfect.
I got even the specific
Perfect.
font. It was like I was seeing all of it, and then I thought, I'm so out of it, and I'm so in pain. I can't even hold a pen. Like I can't even see
Oh,
properly. So I said, okay, take me to the hospital. Let's see what they say. They freaked out. They wanted to put me on a drip for 10 days. And I said, no, I promise I'll take antibiotics. Just let me go home. I managed to convince them. And then I got home, took the antibiotics for a couple of days. And then I was a bit more back in reality, and I could draw the logo. And then a week later, I launched the first training.
a week later, so after you'd just come out of hospital with this awful infection, but then you're just like, right, okay, let's get on that. But I suppose when you've got something in your gut, then you're gonna go and not excuse the pun, because you just had something in your gut. But when you get that itch, you have to go with it, right? Let's go back to the inner dance. So, can you explain a little bit? I mean, inner dance is really hard to describe, but in a nutshell, kind of for the people that don't really know what it is.
I mean, it's one of the most life transformative processes that you could ever experience, and it's about the internal dance, or the internal movement of energy that moves you physically. So you have your eyes closed, there's no guidance about what to do, and it's working with your brain waves and with music to instigate what's alive in you. And this might show up as movement, as emotions, as stillness. It can be very internal. And through this, stuff happens. And nobody knows quite how or why it happens, but it very, very much does.
So was that your first experience? Was that one? Well, like we were literally laying next to each other at the time. Like I remember, like, and then for you immediately knew. I remember that it was immediately, you knew that this was something that you wanted to do and go forward with. I didn't pursue it, but you were like, this is something that I need to pursue. And then you went off and did that, and then that was the thing that you needed to complete the circle before you found the Awakened BellyDance. And I was kind of, it was awesome to be there at as that part of the journey, as you were kind of finding your way, and you were telling me about it, about how you were building this thing, and then from there on, I've been watching from afar about where it's been going. It's been amazing to watch. So the giant snake thing was it all worked out.
I guess I was a snake shedding her skin.
Possibly
into the new, and that was crazy as well, because it was only, I think, 5 months earlier, me and Ty got hit by lightning
Oh
in
yeah, I
India.
was going to mention that.
And
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
then it was inner dance, and then from inner dance, I think this was also like a final push. You have to go to Bali. So it all happened in about 8 months, and it was like boom, boom, boom. And
Wow.
yeah, and and as you know, we did that first session with Pi, who we sort of rediscovered, created inner dance, and he was the first person that I'd found that was talking about brainwaves and the chakras and music, because I'd had this idea a few years before, and I'd spoken to musicians and anybody really that I could, to say, do you know about brainwaves and chakras and how do you work with it? Nobody could tell me anything. So when we went to that session and Pi was talking about that, I thought, finally, I found somebody.
Yeah.
And I also didn't expect it to take me on the journey that it has, and now I teach trainings for it. I really went into it for research. I
Yeah.
didn't know it was going to completely flip me up and around, and it was research purposes, and again to understand Kundalini more, and my own body, my own energy.
You ended up setting up a retreat in Bulgaria, which is exactly what I was going to do as well with someone, but
Yeah.
which ended up not happening for various reasons. But yeah, so you and I ended up that side of the world, and then this side of the world. So was moving to Bulgaria basically the outlet for your the first outlet for your Awakened BellyDance?
Yeah, and well, again, it was strange things that happened with this, because I'd launched the training, and I can't remember how, but somebody recommended me a place in Bulgaria, a retreat center, to hold the training. So I'd never been there, but I I had a good feeling about it, and I'd looked at lots of places in Europe, and it was so expensive. Bulgaria was affordable, so that I could make the training affordable, and so I said, okay, we'll go with this. So in my mind, I thought, I'm just going to go teach the training, go back to Bali. Then I started, well, actually, I'd already been having them almost as soon as I got to Bali, so about 2 years. Uh, Dreams again, and sort of visions of this place with mountains and with lakes. I didn't know where it was, and it was very particular trees. And then around that time, I saw this article, and it was talking about 10 energy hotspots of the world. And I thought, oh, I'll have a look at this. Maybe I wonder if I've been to any of them. The top one was Rila Mountains in Bulgaria. And the picture in the article was exactly what I'd been dreaming about. So I went to Majdi and I said, I think we have to move to Bulgaria.
For
and,
Majdi.
and then, yeah. And then I thought, that's so strange, because the retreat is already planned, and yeah, okay, we're going to move there. So we so we left Bali and went from 40 degrees to minus 21, because we arrived in January, and we got married a few days before in Denmark. So this then made it easier, obviously, for Majdi to live in Europe. And yeah, we arrived in snow, freezing cold, and the house had a wood burner that we didn't know how to use it. And then it turned out it wasn't properly cleaned in the chimney, so it was never going to work ananyway.
Oh, yeah,
So
it would
we
have been
were
bad.
absolutely freezing. Yeah. And me and Ty were there for a month on our own while Majdi got his visa. So I think we had something like 7 layers of clothes. We were having to chop wood and just crying and making chips every day. And in that time, so this was January, the training was going to be May. And so again, I had quite I guess, like being in a cave because of the snow. We didn't go out for almost 2 months.
Yeah.
And I created the playlists, and I drew this diagram, which is like the theory of Awakened BellyDance. And I'd got all these scraps of paper that I'd been keeping for years about ideas and how I felt that things correlated with each other. So from Gurdjieff to brainwaves to chakras to movements. And I completely put everything all over the floor, and with this huge piece of paper and felt pens, and this picture came out of me, which forms the backbone of the Awakened BellyDance training.
Nice.
And then I mean, even now I look at it and I'm like, where did that come from? Because it was really, I think I spent 3 days solid drawing it. And so yeah, we then lived in Bulgaria for about 3 years, and we thought, let's set up a retreat center here, because I'd had a studio in Goa and really loved having that and living somewhere that I could have a studio.
I'd love to do that. That's the dream.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it was near to the beach, and yeah, really nice. So so we looked for somewhere. We couldn't find anything. We were looking for 2 years. Then we found this place with 4 villas and a swimming pool, and it was to rent. So thankfully it was to rent, because we didn't know then what was to come.
All right. Yeah.
So we rented it. Yeah. Yeah, it was for how frustrated we were actually, I think, really protected. And so we took this place, and that summer we started holding retreats, and I held an Awakened BellyDance training there. And I'd held from the beginning retreat center, I'd held the very first training in Bulgaria. And then yeah, we were there, and then all plans were to continue there. And then, as I said at the beginning, I came back to England. I actually went to Saudi to work, and yeah, everything.
2020 happened. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was I've actually only just got my clothes back a few months ago. It's taken 2 years or 3 years to get them back from Bulgaria.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the thing I've noticed throughout this whole story is that somebody's been leaving you little notes and little things to read, or like little adverts. Like there's been like little notices here and there, or a note here or a thing there. It's like there's always been something where you've got, oh, what's this? And then it's brought you to your next. It's like someone's been leaving you this little things to find on the way. It's a really great story. Have you thought of you should have you are you writing a book yet? Or because you should be.
Yeah,
Good.
I'm on chapter 5 at the moment. I just started it a few months ago. So yeah, I've got up to age 20.
Wow.
In those
chapter
chapters.
5. Yeah, I know, right? And my life would be a triple trilogy.
Yeah.
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 Well, it's such a fascinating story, though, and also the being really open to kind of your intuition and going where the wind takes you is I love that. I'd like to be more like, I mean, I am like that, but it's not always logistically possible, you know. But yeah, I think that. And then sometimes things don't always make sense until many years later, and then you link them back again. Like, yeah.
I can see now with the time that I was in England in lockdown, and that was when I started to work with the Blue Lotus, and then this again was like a little piece that pulled me to Egypt, because when the only thing that year that went ahead for me work-wise, apart from online, was an Awakened BellyDance training in Turkey. And I really had this feeling that this consciousness of this dance really wants to be here and is going to make it happen no matter what. Because this group of women, it was unbelievable. I said to them, are you sure you want to do this? You know, coming from Chile, from Germany, from England, all these different countries. And they all said, we're coming to be with you in the jungle in Turkey, in this eco place. If we get locked out of our countries, you know, it doesn't matter. We want to come and do this training. And they did. And all the countries locked down again. As we went into the jungle, we didn't know what was happening. We did the training, and then by the time we came out, things changed again, so they could all get back to where they lived.
Yeah.
And And it was just amazing that throughout, no matter what, it's like, yeah, this Awakened BellyDance has thrived and survived. And then I was working still with the Blue Lotus, and this again was bringing me lots of dreams and different insights into the sort of evolvement of Awakened BellyDance as well, because it's not been something that's fixed. It's as I'm evolving, of course, the dance, the therapy is evolving, and that then led me. I think you know about me learning whirling in the cave underground
Yeah.
in Turkey.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so that again, another teacher who just saw me and had never taught women in that lineage, not especially a Western non-Muslim woman, and accepted me and did one-to-one classes with me
Wow.
for 6 weeks, and it was so special and so unbelievable in the way, yeah, the way that he kind of took me in, and what I gained from that.
Wow.
So yeah,
The
yeah,
way
it
that I
was very
love the way
special.
that you've come across these teachers and they sort of brought you in and then shared this gift with you that they're not necessarily sharing with other people, and then it's amazing.
Yeah.
Like what an amazing gift.
Yeah, and also because I realized that about 2 months earlier I was whirling somewhere, and I'd had this vision of this person, and when I saw him I knew he was the person. And then later on in the last week of the training, we were talking, and also he didn't speak much English, and obviously I don't speak Turkish, so we'd kind of got to be able to communicate more. And I asked him, why did you agree to teach me? Because it took 2 weeks for him to say yes, and I was waiting on, you know, and this has been the same with my Bharatanatyam teacher, with the Nepalese teacher. It wasn't, oh yeah, show up and give me your money and I'll teach you.
Absolutely, yeah.
They really grilled me. Why do you want to do it? You know, be here at this time. Then they wouldn't show up. 2 days later, okay, be here at 7 a.m, and to see if I'll go. You know, it's like an initiation. And so he thought about it and then agreed. And I told him about the dream I'd had, or the sort of vision, and he also said that he recognized me, and
Oh,
this was
that's
why.
amazing.
Yeah. So I've been really, I don't think lucky is the right word. I don't know what the word is, but
No, not lucky.
it's like, yeah, I feel really honored
Yeah.
uh, to have studied with the people that I have done, and the way that they've really nurtured me and not tried to trap me in any way, or they haven't tried to restrict me. It's always been very much about being free, and making the dance whatever it is that I want to. Even with the Bharatanatyam teacher, I mean, Bharatanatyam, as you know, classical dance is so strict.
Yeah.
And she taught me in a way that I could work with it as fusion with belly dance. She was like, you know, just run with it, do what you feel, because I know she knew that in my heart that I was coming to it from a purity, I guess.
Yeah, so because a lot of people, you know, being white Western girls, like ladies, women, no, not girls anymore. Yeah, so being from our background and being white Western women, a lot of people will go, oh, you know, what are you doing with those dances? You don't have the right to do it. And obviously they probably may not, they may not all know your background and how you actually came by these dances. So what would you say about that? I mean, how did you feel about that? Did you ever feel conflicted yourself about doing these dances, or did you always feel this is supposed to happen?
Yeah, I always felt it was supposed to happen because of the way things unraveled around me. And even with the Gurdjieff teacher, Akash, it took me 3 years to find her. I had this feeling, and I didn't know where to look, but I'd heard that there's this Gurdjieff teacher in Goa. And it got to the point where I thought, when it's the right time, I'll find her. And it did. I overheard somebody talking when I was having a masala dosa,
I
and
love
that
masala
she'd just been
dosa.
in the class, and
I miss
yeah,
masala dosa
masala
so
dosa.
much.
Yeah, yeah, and I heard this word Gurdjieff, and I was like, "What? Do you know this teacher?" And then she gave me the information, and it was exactly the perfect time. And I feel that people have studied, or maybe not studied, they've learned things from YouTube, or they've not really gone in depth with things, and then have abused it and created fusion, but without really having like the proper roots of it.
Yeah.
And this is something that I remember from a conversation with Hossam, is that when you really know the rules and you really know the foundation, you know how to break them.
Yeah,
And
exactly. Like if
and yeah,
it's like you learn, you study that, and you study that, and you study that, and when you fully understand it, then you can fuse it. But you need to understand what you're fusing in order to fuse it. You
yeah,
know, otherwise it's
yeah.
not. It's not. I mean, it's not even. Yeah, well, I wouldn't. It's not. It comes naturally for you to fuse something when you fully understand it.
And also in Bali, I studied Balinese dance as well.
Yeah.
And again, the story of finding it was a husband and wife, and finding those teachers, it was like they were placed for me to find them,
Wow.
and had an amazing 2 years with them. But for the Balinese, there's parts of it that I've fused into, say, with Bharatanatyam, because there's some similarities, but there's also differences in posture, but there's enough similarity that you can. But I would never say I'm a Balinese dancer,
Exactly.
because
I think
I haven't
I
done
think I
all of
remember
that to that
having
extent.
I think I remember having a conversation with you back in England. I think you taught in Sneinton. It was in Sneinton, and we were outside because it was sunny. And I think it was the Nepalese dance. And I spoke about that, and you mentioned that you'd literally been given permission to teach the dancers because as in, which it's like it's been gifted to you to teach. Therefore you didn't just go, oh, I've done a couple of workshops and now I'm going to teach it. It was like it was gifted to you by your teachers almost. So
Yeah, because I passed the tests.
yeah,
That's,
exactly. Yeah, I remember.
without the music, and
Yeah, I remember you telling me
yeah,
that. Yeah. Mm.
yeah. And it's very, when you're studying these kind of dances, and especially in the country of origin, you are in this old school guru disciple role, really. I mean, in the old days, as the student, you would have lived with your teacher, you would have cooked, cleaned, sewn their clothes, like you would have been doing everything for them, and completely been immersed in the dance. And these days it's not as possible to do that, but at the same time, I did do that for my Bharatanatyam teacher. I went to shows with her, I helped her get dressed, I fixed stuff, like I would pick her up. Or it's like, for me, that was part of the training, because I could then watch the performance. And for Sylvia as well, I did the same thing. She would do this really cool one-woman show, and I would go and help her out. And it's like, yeah, it's part of that initiation journey. And I think it also makes you really value and respect and stay humble in it,
Yeah.
that you're not taking something from that person or from that culture. You're, like you said, you're being gifted it.
Yeah.
And then it's up to you how much you practice, and how the way that you take it into your own body, and also what the dance gifts to you, because the movements also have much deeper meaning than we realize, and they're like keys opening the body, and bringing more information to us if we're open to it.
Yeah. Right. Well, we've been chatting for a really long time, so I'm going to end it there. And also, I think we've probably covered your life story. But before we go, where do you go from here? And when can I come and dance with you again?
Yay. So as we said, I'm based in Egypt, in Dahab, which is next to the beach in
Nice.
Sinai. And currently we're creating a studio on the roof of where we live. So yeah, I'll be able to do classes and different things here. But I also I teach classes and workshops in Dahab and in Cairo. um, and yeah, now that we can travel more again, so I'll be in England. It's usually spring and autumn,
Yeah.
those kind of times. And yeah, Europe, and there's plans afoot for America,
Wow.
and yeah, different. We've not quite worked it out yet, but it's coming. And yeah, and Australia, and all kinds of different things. So the best thing is to join my mailing list through the
Oh yeah,
website,
yeah, yeah.
which yeah.
Have you got any
Well,
retreats or anything happening, or?
yeah, February 2024 in Zanzibar.
Ooh.
We've got a mermaid retreat because I'm now
Ooh.
training as a mermaid instructor. So in about a week's time, I should have my little certificate. And yeah, so it's like
I want to
it's so
go.
funny because yeah, come. In England, I've got some weekend retreats and things happening, sort of August, September. And then May 2024, we've got Awakened BellyDance Wild Camp, which is in
Nice.
Wales. And yeah, there's quite a lot of different things, and inner dance training and Awaken Belly Dance training will be in Egypt, March 2024 as well.
Nice.
But yeah, the best thing is like all the social media. If you look for my name or Awaken Belly Dance, and I post everything on all of them, and then yeah, for the
Mailing
mailing
list.
list, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, and then it's all in one place.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And so when do you reckon your book will be coming out?
Oh, yeah, I really July actually. I've got to get back on it again, and
Oh,
it
right,
won't be
okay.
coming out then. I've got to keep writing. I think it's I don't know, with how busy I'm going to be over from August to May. I think it's going to be probably a year or something.
Yeah, fair
Yeah,
enough. Yeah, yeah.
I
Well, that's
yeah.
exciting though.
Yeah. I feel finally. I've been thinking about it for about 15 years,
Amazing.
and yeah, I finally got to the point of okay, now is the moment. I've got all the bits of information now that I need to put in.
Cool. Fantastic.
Okay.
Thanks for having a chat with me. It was really, really awesome. Okay.
Yeah, oh, thank you.
All right. Well, take care.
Bye for now.
Bye bye.
Bye.